Good morning, Unity Halton Peel. Welcome to the first Sunday of July. Oh my goodness, half the year is over. I do not know where it has gone. And I personally am feeling very behind the ball because I've got my desk is stacking up again. So let us take a few moments and enjoy some time together, a little bit of music, something a little different this morning for our talk. And my name is Wendy Karr. I'm a licensed Unity teacher, and it is my joy, honor, and privilege to be not only the guest speaker today, but your host as well. So let's get going. Our mission is to lovingly inspire transformation and to be of service to the world. And now I will call on Margaret to please read our daily word.
Thank you, Wendy. So for Sunday, July the 6th, possibilities, the topic of our daily word. I open my mind to limitless possibilities. There are limits to what my mind can imagine. I may find a challenge too big to overcome or too complex to work through. In the past, I might have avoided such challenges, but today I turn within for guidance. Within my inner sanctuary, I find infinite possibilities. For God, nothing is or ever could be impossible. As a spiritual being, I open my mind so these possibilities can enter my imagination. With spiritual sight, I begin to apprehend what is possible. I emerge from my prayer time filled with inspiration and clarity, ready to take the steps necessary to make my vision a reality. I return again and again to the limitless field of infinite potential where I can claim divine ideas and know the presence and power of God is in and through all things. For nothing will be impossible with God. Luke 1, 37, verse 37.
Thank you, Margaret. And if you are watching later, you can find this and other readings at dailyword.org. You can also obtain a printed or digital subscription. They are bi-monthly, and this has been in publication for over 100 years now, so it's a wonderful resource. Our song for today seemed kind of appropriate for our first gathering of the month. Room at the Table.
Let our hearts not be hardened to those living on the margins. There is room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Too long we have wandered, burdened and undone, but there is room at the table for everyone. Let us sing the new word in. This is how it all begins. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. Here and now we can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. gathering for everyone. Everyone.
And our affirmation for 2025. We at Unity Halton Peel are blessed with an abundantly thriving community. And by this we mean not only are we blessed as a community, but we are also blessed individually, and we are a blessing to the world. And it is done, and so it is. And with that, let us take a moment to breathe and bring ourselves into this present moment, into this gathering, allowing what has been this past week and the days before that to just be in the past. Whatever needs to follow us into the future will follow us, and allowing whatever needs to be done next to just remain in the future. It can wait. And in this now moment, we come together in oneness, knowing that no matter what is happening in the world right now, no matter what the appearance is, whether it is of great joy or great sadness, of great prosperity or great lack, that we all truly are one, and that we can breathe into this and support each other, love each other, prosper each other, heal each other through our awareness and through being a blessing to the world. And in this consciousness, we bless in the month of July Unity Spiritual Center Hamilton and Unity Worldwide Ministries. And we move into our affirmations for the month of July. For inner peace, I dwell in divine peace. And let us take a moment and breathe and repeat that quietly to ourselves. I dwell in divine peace. For wisdom, the light of divine wisdom is my guide. The light of divine wisdom is my guide. For freedom, I am whole and free. I am whole and free. For prosperity, I celebrate divine abundance. I celebrate divine abundance. For love, I am a harmonious presence. I am a harmonious presence. And for this and for all the blessings that we are and that we share and that are yet to come to us, we say, so it is so, and so I let it be. Amen. And before I forget, birthday blessings to all the July babies. I know we have at least 2 on the call, possibly more. So if this is your birthday month, congratulations. You've made it through another year around the sun, and you are continuing to be a blessing to this world. That moves into our monthly affirmation. I am creative. Creativity is my natural state of being, and I am immersed in endless possibilities. And you've probably noticed sort of the golden tone to all of the slides, and that's because the innate ability for the month of July is understanding. And so today I want to do something a little different. Usually I have a lot of talking to do, but it's July and it's hot, and I don't want to have to think too hard. So what I thought about doing was pulling out some vignettes from the Unity Village archives. And I want to give grateful thanks to the Unity Village Archives, who has supported me so greatly by giving me permission to share images and supporting my research and doing wonderful things that have supported what I do in the community. So I want to take you back in time to the earliest days of Unity. This is how Unity looked around 1926. Of all these buildings, only the church and library remain. Everything else is gone. And we could say, oh, that's sad. And we can say, but what a wonderful beginning, what a wonderful foundation Unity had. And I want to highlight some of the creative things that they did. And some of these stories, you can just sort of say, oh, well, they had this and they had that. But when you look, when you draw back and look big picture, there really were some amazing things happening in the Unity community back in the day. So if you can see on the corner of Tracy Avenue and 9th Street is the Unity Inn. And I'm going to talk at some length about that because it has a really interesting position in the Unity movement and in our development and in our growth. On the right, you can see the press room. We didn't outsource our printing until quite late. That was something that was done early on. And I laugh when I think about back in the day before these buildings were created, how they would manage the subscribers list for Daily Word and other such periodicals just by pasting names to a long list on a roll. And eventually it became something like, do you remember those card catalogs that we used to have in libraries? It became like that. And there was a time where you couldn't work anywhere in Unity until you had spent at least a year working with that subscribers catalog to learn how to interact with that and who the people were and get a sense of what the community looked like. So they had their own garage, they serviced their own trucks, they serviced whatever was work, the printing presses, whatever needed servicing, they had the capacity for that. They had their own power plant. They had other places where people actually lived. There were some apartments on grounds. So this is where we started. This is our great beginnings. And this for many years has been my spiritual home when I've been in the Kansas City area. And it's starting to look its age because it's over 100 years old and it's in an interesting part of town. One of their resources, one of the things they do is they have a potluck every week after Sunday service. And people in the community know to come, that they will be fed. They don't have to sit through the lesson and the service. They can just come and be fed. So this is one of the great things that they do. Meanwhile, the idea was that perhaps it would be useful to have some land where they could generate their own crops and perhaps some orchards. And what was done is simultaneously, we have two things at play. We have the inn where they want to give vegetarian food. It's probably one of the very first vegetarian and possibly organic, but definitely farm to table restaurants in the Kansas City area. But we also have this movement in North America of let's send the kids out of the inner city out to the county for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. So you have that. So there's this desire to buy land. Now, what's funny is that what is Unity Village is surrounded, and more so than ever before, by buildup of urban living. In the time, it was out in the boonies. It was very much a a farmland. And what they did in a very smart way was they bought up a farm and then the farm next door and then the farm next door, keeping all the buildings until they were ready to actually build, so that they had some structures they could use for storage, for offices, for whatever. So the lower picture is an interior of the Unity Inn cafeteria. And it was kind of an Art Deco place. It burned down a few years ago, or there was a fire that they ended up having to tear the rest down. But in its time, it was a really interesting dynamic because they had buses that they would bring people from downtown to the inn and then take them back to their places of work. Now, Kansas City in the early part of the 20th century was a segregated city. And there were times that Unity people brought African Americans, Black people into the inn, and there was a bit of concern because that wasn't allowed in Kansas City. But what they would do is just let them get their food and then they would go elsewhere on grounds to actually eat, so they weren't sitting in the restaurant part. And that's one of those difficult things of doing what you need to do in the spiritual while living in the human. So the shot on the left is a still shot from a silent movie that was made, and you can find it on YouTube, in the 1920s. And you can see the bus. There's the bus in front of the Unity Inn, and you can see the beautiful signage that they used to have there. So it was open to anyone. They had a soda stand with ice cream, and they showed how giving balloons to children, and it was quite the place to be. So we were feeding the body as well as the soul. And a lot of people didn't get the connection between this building and the church, which was 2 doors down, and all of the other buildings. It wasn't necessarily that you had to be an adherent of a Unity Center to go to the Unity Inn. If you were a vegetarian or you desired healthy food, this was the place to go. Now, some of you may know the picture of this gentleman. This is James Dillett Freeman in the 70s, I would say, based on his hair and his dress. He was the head of the school for training ministers after World War II with the GI Bill. He was also the head of Silent Unity. Now, his parents divorced, and his mom had a new boyfriend. They had moved to Kansas City. New boyfriend, his stepfather, became ill, and somebody suggested that he try a diet of oranges. Okay, whatever. And after a while, he got kind of tired of it, and someone else said, no, you need to go to the Unity Inn. They have really healthy food. That's what will cure you. And so he took young Jim along with him, and he writes in one of his books that his stepfather was very gregarious, and by about the second visit, he knew everybody, all the staff and the regulars and all of that. And it was through that Jim Freeman got a job as a mail sorter. And then he moved into working for Silent Unity and teaching and being in a number of places and being the poet laureate of Unity and writing very famous poems and a whole bunch of books. So if his stepfather hadn't stepped foot into the Unity Inn, I don't know that we would have ever heard of James Dillett Freeman. I don't know that we ever would have had the prayer for protection, which he wrote during World War II. It was decided that they needed to put something regularly on the booklets that were being sent to the military families at home and to the soldiers in the trenches. And somebody said, oh, let's send the 23rd Psalm. And Jim said, no, we don't want to talk about the valley of the shadow of death. We want something inspiring. We want something affirmative. And he created the prayer for protection, which has been taken to the moon on microfilm. So what would we have missed out on? We would have missed out on these collections of his art, of his poetry. We would have missed out on what for many years was the definitive history of the Unity movement. We would have missed out on a book about watching his wife die of cancer, which I still cannot read without a box of tissues next to me. But in this book, he talks about another of his famous poems that I am there. And he talks about how his heart was breaking at what he was seeing happening. And he went into the chapel and he said it was like a voice spoke to him and said, "Do you need me? I am there." And it's become a poem that other people use outside the unity movement because it just resonates so much with the attributes of that, of the concepts of grief and having challenges and wondering what's next. So in 1919, going back to the farm, they had 58 acres. By 1941, they had 1,300 acres. It's a little less now because there are a number of roads that run through and around the property. And so some of that land has had to be taken over for those purposes. But I can tell you, it is always a great joy when I am driving down there and I either see the light on the top of the tower or I see a sign that says Unity Village, turn here. So it literally was a farm. They had horses. They had, they grew a number of grains and fruit, and I'm going to talk about it in a moment. I have a slide for that. But this was from that same silent video. They took us out and we watched the harvest come in. Now, what's really interesting is the property that they bought had a whole bunch of natural resources. They found natural gas. They found water tables. They were able to dam up the water so that even during, in the middle of Missouri, in the Great Depression of the 30s, they still were able to grow some crops. They were still able, while farms around them failed, they had the resources innate in that property to continue. So this is just before the USA entered World War II. Those of you not familiar with history or watching from abroad, Canada entered in September of 1939. The US did not enter until after the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7th of 1941. But the Unity Training School ran in the summer-ish, and they had 200 acres of orchards, 5 different kinds of berries. They had flour, they had corn, they had other cereals. I'm going to probably guess it might have been oats. That might have been one of the things. They had canned goods. They had dairy products. They had chickens. They had so many chickens. It was a functioning farm because everything else was still in downtown Kansas City. So if you have been to Unity Village or you have seen pictures of the Great Tower, which was and continues to be a water tower, when you went in back in the day, you were greeted with the bookstore and with, can you see all the canned goods here from the Unity Farm? And this was, something that they were doing where it was feeding the population as well as feeding spiritually. This was the Unity Farm little place. It was at a crossroads where this building was is now the middle of the interstate, so it's gone. When I volunteered at the Unity Village Archives back in the day, back in the late 90s, early aughts, I guess we call them, I met a lady who was the widow of one of Unity's ministers, and this was actually how she met her husband. They had both come in to get their supplies for the week. And I just think that's such a wonderful story that they went through and met each other again through food, not necessarily through spiritual teachings. This is what Unity Farm looks like now. It's an organic farm, which is open. Debbie and I went there while we were down for conference. It was closed the day that we went, but I insisted that we had to drive over and just check it out. And it's beautiful. And they make a lot of vegetables and fruits available to the broader community. And in a time when we are looking for organic and farm to table, this is a great asset for the Kansas City area. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the building, because as creative as the farm had been, how they built Unity Village was even as creative, if not more. So in the picture to the right of this model, you see the two elder sons of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founders, Lowell and Rickard. Lowell was more of the administrator. Rickard was the creative one. He had gone to art school. He had traveled through Europe, and it is his thumbprint that is all over Unity Village's buildings. But in the archives, they have these models of what things were going to look like. And what's really amazing to me is how many models they had and how detailed these models were. And if you've been to Unity Village, you'll know that some of the doors have beautiful artwork above the entryways. And I found it interesting, a longtime friend of mine, also a Unity minister, back in the day when he went through school, you went and lived on grounds for 2 years while you studied. And he came into Unity ministry having been a carpenter, a master carpenter at that. And one of the things he did while he was studying was he did repairs on the front doors of these buildings because he had the creative and knowledge to do that. So I always say a blessing as I go through some of the doors that I know he worked on and appreciate what he gave to the Unity community. So in terms of creativity, this is a utility building. This is not a building that the public sees the inside of. It's simply, what it is here. But there was a desire to have creativity expressed, to have beauty expressed, just kind of proving that you don't have to be a utilitarian looking building to be of service. And I love this building because it's one of the ones that I use as a marker when I'm doing a path walk, because often I'll get lost in my own thoughts and I'll look around. Where am I? Well, there's another tower that I can use. On the left is the tower that I mentioned earlier. The building directly in front of it and the tower are the two original buildings that were built. They were built in the 20s, and work stopped during World War II because, of course, all the industry was focused on the war effort, and there were so many people that were either working in the factories at home or were overseas, either as soldiers, sailors, Marines, Air Force, medics, nurses, all the people that went overseas. And those two buildings are on the National Historic Register. They're not just unique to us, they are part of the Kansas City history. This is the administration building, or what we used to call the administration building. And what I love about this was built in the early 50s. And it is an early example of prefabrication. You can't really tell it from looking at it. I actually did a walkabout one day, and I actually could start to see some of the cracks. But of course, we repair those because we want the building to be in good use. But it was one of these things that post-World War II, people would come to Unity Village and say, how do you do this? How do you pour the concrete? How do you make the molds? How do you take them and place them? And so there's beautiful pictures of the molds of the windows, and each of those sections is, I believe, 4 pieces, if memory serves. Even the front opening is prefab. And so when you think about how America, and to some degree Canada, developed post-World War II, and how much we used in prefabrications of houses and other buildings, in some ways we have Unity to thank for that, because we showed that it could work and it could be beautiful. It could be both functional and beautiful. So finally, my third little area to talk about was records. Now, I knew that they pressed 78s on Tracy Avenue. There's footage of that. I've seen the footage. But they also made these little 10-inch, very floppy records that they would send out. And as you can see, they were mailed out. One hopes there was a piece of cardboard in there. And these were 10-inch healing records. So they've been, they play on a Victor or similar records. They were usable. We had music available, tenor with orchestra, so you could have these songs play for you at home if you couldn't make it to headquarters. And then they also had the healing and prosperity records that were for a monthly period that had meditations and things like that on them. And this was something the archivist was really excited to show me the last time I was doing some research. She's like, "Have you ever seen one of these?" And I confess I disappointed her. I said, "Yeah, I've seen them. In fact, I have one. I haven't been able to play it, but I do have one in my collection." So I'm glad to see the bigger picture of how much this was expanded. So we've moved from mailing out records to being online. And I sometimes get so in awe of how we can do things in a very different way than we did 100 years ago. And what future? I don't know what the future looks like. I know that AI is going to be a part of it. Um, I'm being drawn kicking and screaming into it. Uh, and I don't know. But there's something very creative. I'm seeing people who are far more creative than I am, who are using AI and their own innate abilities to do incredible things. So that's my little vignette of going through some of the history of Unity. You folks who know me know well that I love history and that I love finding nuggets in the archives about who we have been, and because I think we don't necessarily need to go backwards, but let's not forget the foundation on which we are built. So for our time of meditation, I want to be quiet. And what I'm going to invite all of us to do is just to take our affirmation into your hearts, into your minds. And we will have a time of silence so that you can just resonate with these words and what skill set you bring to this world. I do not claim to be an artist. I claim to be a historian, and maybe there's some art in that. Perhaps you're a musician. Perhaps you have great skill with numbers or science or literature, whatever it is that is unique to you in this world. So I'm going to be silent, and I will play a song when it's time to come out of our time of silence.
You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions, I am not mysteries. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions, I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am, and then but as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there, yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray and when you do not pray. I am in you, and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, for only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Yet only with your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all, and I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers. Because I know you, because I love you, beloved, I am there.
And that was James Dillett Freeman reading his poem. Thank you for your indulgence. Right, back to our main show. As always, our Unity Prayer Chaplains and prayer team are available to offer confidential support. If you have a prayer request or intention, please feel free to email our lead chaplain at praywithdiane@gmail.com. And she will not only share this in confidence with the rest of the prayer team, but it will be forwarded to Silent Unity for an additional 30 days of prayer. If you're joining us and still on the call here, please check out our website for upcoming events and speakers. And as always, this is an opportunity for gratitude and to share. And we give thanks for your continued financial support of this ministry. And let us join together. Divine love now flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and is a blessing wherever it goes. And so it is. In the month of July, we will be supporting Unity Canada and continuing to support Eden Food for Change. And more information about these organizations can be found at their respective websites. Madam President, have I missed anything? Okay. Let us join together then with our children's blessing, and let us also take a moment to surround the families in Texas who are waiting to hear where their children are and if they have survived the flash flood that ran through the camp. And we bless and appreciate and support the children in Gaza, the children in Ukraine, all children everywhere, knowing that they are our future, our light, our love. And we surround all of them in our safety, in our love, in our prosperity, recognizing their wholeness. And we say together, children and youth of Unity and of the world, we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are. And let us join together in James Dillett Freeman's prayer. The light of God surrounds us, I am light. The love of God enfolds us, I am love. The power of God protects us, I am power. The presence of God watches over us, I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, I am divine. And as our tradition, Sue K. Riley will sing us out.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one. One choice unites us. Let this be the one. I choose love. I choose love. I choose love.
Thank you for joining us today. Be well, be peaceful, be prosperous, be love, and we look forward to welcoming you again.